How's it going, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about taking a self-drawn image and making a 3D printable file so you can make stamps or cookie cutters. Alrighty, guys. So let's go over the basics of the software that I use. I use a Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, to produce the file that I need. And it's a really powerful tool. It's a subscription base. I'm using CS6, which is I purchased it when I was in school for graphic design, and what you get now is a little bit more advanced, but for the most part, it's going to be almost identical in process. So it should be pretty universal to follow. So let's pretend that you don't know anything about opening the program. You open the program, you don't have any boards. What do? You go File, New. It doesn't really matter because all of these are vector images, which means that they scale up and down. If you had a client that had specific needs for dimensions, you would then change these things, but it doesn't really matter for what we're doing. So I'm just going to hit OK. Let's say you have an image that you drew on pen and paper, and you just wanted to send it over. So you scan it in your computer, or you take a picture on your phone, and you email it to yourself, however you do it, and you on pen and paper, you just want to put it on screen or turn it into a stamp. This is how you do it. So I found an image online. So, I mean, this works multiple different ways. You find an image, or you draw your own. All of these techniques are going to work the same. So, keyboard shortcut for zoom is Z. You can find it over here on the left-hand side. You hit Alt for alternate, so instead of zooming in, we're zooming out. I'm going to go out a few times. Got a couple of different tools. You got selection tool and direct selection tool. I'll explain what they do differently, but for right now, we want the selection tool. So let's pretend that this isn't selected. I'm going to go and click on it. Now it is. Okay, Object. You go to Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand. Okay. Now it's a vector image. So the problem is we can't just save it like this, because if we did, the type of file we have is going to register this as a box. It doesn't actually know the difference between the colors. So white and black make no difference as far as the file is concerned. So we're going to select the direct select tool. And like I said, the options here are you could, for this example, I'm going to have the outline of the chicken be what's stamped in. You could do it in reverse to where the black outline is recessed and the white would be pushed forward. For whatever reason, if that's something you want to do, I think a little bit more difficult and kind of harder to get a stamp that would perform reliably, but that's up to you. So the way you would do that is you click on the black image or the black line. We're going to go to Control X, click it twice. This is going to remove that black line. You could also, I'm going to put it back. You could go to File, or you could go to Edit and go to Cut, and you can see the keyboard shortcuts are on the right hand side. And I would have to do that twice. Same thing. Keyboard shortcuts a little bit faster. Worth getting used to. So I'm going to select the white background. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm also going to select the white in the eye and get rid of that. Now I have the black outline of the chicken. This is perfect. So now I just grab the whole thing. I don't have to do that with the selection tool. If I just clicked in one area, it would select the whole thing. But if I wanted to go with direct select, I could grab just the tail feathers. And let's say I didn't like the tail feathers, I want to rework them, whatever. I can delete those with Control X and reasonably go back in with the tools provided and add whatever you wanted. So I'm going to put that back with Control Z, which is undo. I'm going to grab it with the selection tool, and I'm going to shrink this just because I like to work on my artboard. Once again, that doesn't really matter for what we're doing, but it's just something I do. I hold down Shift, and the reason I do Shift is because I want the proportions to stay the same. You'll notice even if I drag like in weird directions, it stays proportionally the exact same. Right? So let's say if I take off Shift, I can make the chicken really skinny, or I can make them a little pudgy and short. If I hold down Shift, it goes back to being proportionally correct. So I'm going to shrink this down, and I'm going to drag it to my artboard a little bit smaller. Perfect. And now that we've done that, I'm going to hit Z for my zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in. Okay. Now we have something that's workable. Okay. So things that are worth considering. Print times are dependent on how much filament you are going to use. So let's just say I want to put a box behind him. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to layers. This is important. If I grab him, you'll notice he's got a blue outline. Say I make a new layer. It's now red. I could put a box behind him just like this, and that would work perfectly fine. Okay? What that box would do is it gives your stamp a base to work off of. I don't like the box because there's so much dead space. So actually, let's get rid of the box. And let's grab our brush tool, which is B on the keyboard for the shortcut. You can come over here on the left-hand side and click the brush tool. Right, I'm going to do black stroke and black infill. And I'm going to kind of just trace around this guy. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want it to, go all the way around him. And perfect. There we go. Oh, all right. So I did select for it to infill, but I didn't do it correctly. So I click this. You'll notice it's red because we're on the red layer. I can go in and say, okay, go ahead and infill this. And this saves me on all this dead space right here that I would have to print around or whatever. So now let's talk about how to save the image. So we're going to save as. We're going to do this as an SVG file. I like to say okay, we're going to save it as chicken 01 line. Okay. Now, chicken gives me an idea of what the image is. 01 gives me my iteration, and line tells me that it's the lines of my stamp. You can save it however you want, just as long as you remember. Make sure you know where you're saving it. I have a folder on my computer for 3D prints, for clay stamps, and then just for this one, I save it in my stamps, because I plan on deleting this folder later. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm going to hit save. Now you got a couple different options. So I leave it as an SVG 1.1. Now I do change this. Typically it would say Adobe CEF or SVG. I do convert to outline. The reason I do this is because some of the programs you're going to be shifting things to, if you've saved it as an SVG file, it would make zero difference for this no matter how you saved it, unless we use the type tool in Illustrator, and in that case we need to convert to an outline because these do not save the font. this would save your font, which once again wouldn't matter if the other programs had the font that you were using, but that's a lot of work to keep up with. Just convert it to an outline and hit OK. Now that's done. So now I'm going to make the blue layer blind and cut the red layer on. File, save as. Now I'm going to do chicken 01 base, right? And then I'm going to hit save. I'm going to keep this all the same. Hit OK. Perfect. Okay. And then from here, we are ready to go ahead and turn this into a stamp, which you're more than welcome to skip to, but I'm going to show you a few more options. So let's talk about editing the chicken, right? What if I wanted to have my chicken saying, like, I don't know, hey, and maybe doing like maybe some grass or something around his feet. Make it, I don't know, cuter or whatever. Or your business, you have like welcome to the roost or something. Whatever. All right, how would you do that? So I would, on a separate layer, so you'll notice that this is now green. Now I have a pressure tablet. You could do this with the brush tool and pen and mouse. But I'm going to use a tablet and show you how to set that up. But you could do like high, and then give them like some. Ooh, that's a kind of. I probably shouldn't be too picky. Some ground with some really ugly grass. All of this is just kind of examples. So that's one way, and the more time you spend, the easier this gets. Type tool, I could do, I don't know, sup, exclamation point. And then I could theoretically just print that the way this looks. But that's all design input on your end, so it's completely up to you. So I'm not going to actually change anything on the green layer. I'm just going to hide it. I'm going to come back to the pin section. Now, some of the stuff I do differently is I make my own pins. So actually, let me start this slow. So I go to brushes on the right hand side. I believe you can hit view. Ooh, I don't know how to find brushes. Maybe it's window. Brushes would be B. Brushes. So we could do it like that. All right. So mine's on the right hand side. Most of them will, but you could go window, brushes, and then we're going to go to new brush, which looks like a new tab or a new little piece of paper with a corner folded over. I'm going to say, yep, it's going to be a brush. Now I like to do it at 10 with pressure. Now pressure is only going to be used if you have a tablet that recognizes pressure. My tablet is extremely old and not great. Let me double check that. Did that go through? Yes. Now, things to note. Pressure size, pressure, variation. Variation cannot be over 10. Or it cannot be over the base size of the brush. So if I put 11 in here, this would not work. All right, and then you could obviously name your brush. So JTB, which is my initials. Okay, and then we scroll over, we see JTB, we know that's our brush. If I hit B, I now have that brush selected. If I pull out my tablet, let me see. So you'll notice, to give you an idea, if I come in real nice and soft, and then go real hard, I could do something like that, right? We're going to take that away, and he's going to say, like hey, and then we'll give them like some maybe some little grass, whatever. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the differences that between layer options. So that was with a mouse. You can tell really with the hay and the little speech bubble. And I put about the same amount of work into both. So depending on your tools, things are easier, but not necessary, I guess is my point. And you could go in and use things like your tools over here. I'm not going to go over all of these, but they all work. The only one that you have to worry about is your type tool, and that once again is gone over with the um, how we save the file. Everything else is recognized the exact same way. So let's talk about saving this and setting up a background for it. So I'm just going to stick with the tablet because it's faster. So that works for me. And we're going to fill this in. Doesn't have to be really pretty. What? Fill in. All right, there we go. Okay. So this all works. Now what we're going to do is we need the chicken back. File, save as, chicken. Actually, since the base is already up, what I'm going to do is cut the base back on. File, save as, SVG. This can be iteration 2. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. I've got convert to outline. Okay, that works. Now I'm going to go file, save as, and then I need to convert. I need to change base to line because this is going to be the outline. I'm going to hit save, convert to outline. Okay. Now this is all the work you have to do with a line image. Now things that we're going to do is we're going to go to opening up a browser. Excuse all of my messy browsers. I'm going to go ahead and close all this stuff out. I tend to use metric conversions for 3D printing, inches to millimeters, because I'm too lazy, and Google will do it for me. So I'm going to go to tinkercad. That's tinkercad.com. Now I'll put the link in that in the description, so it'll be fairly easy for you to get to. I'm going to go ahead and ditch my tablet and bring back the mouse because it is more accurate for point and click. Now you're going to want to sign in. I use Google, and I have my business account linked into that. So now we're here, and what are we going to do? You can see I've got a lot of little things here and there, but I'm going to create a new design. And this is where like all the power of these tools kind of come in. So we're going to import. We're going to choose a file. This is where knowing where you saved your stuff really makes a difference. So I know I saved it in my stamps. I know this is chicken 00, chicken underscore 01 base, and line is what I need. So I'm going to open up the base, import. Okay. I'm going to import. I'm not going to touch these because they're going to import in the same exact spot. And you'll see why that helps in just a minute. We're going to go to the line, and I'm going to import. And it should drop right on top of where I want it. So now I can look at how thick this is. This is 10. That's way too thick. I'm going to drop the height of this down to 2. And I generally think 2 to 3 millimeters is all you need for a stamp. Now, if you're doing a cookie cutter, I would go as high as about 15 millimeters. So I'd actually bump this up. But because this is a stamp, I'm designing it as a stamp, I'm going to set this at 4. Okay. This also decreases print times, which can be important. So I highlight everything, just like in our other program. Shift is going to hold all of our measurements, and then I can decide how big I want it. Now, if I let go of this, I think the numbers will disappear, but you see it says 115.8 and 138.8. These are important things to look at. Let's say you want um, your your deal to be, I don't know. Let's just say you would need it to be 2 inches, right? So I'm just gonna round this up to 51. All right. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna hold Shift because this holds my dimensions, and I'm going to scroll this down till I see 51 or something close to that. If you need it exact, obviously you can do the math. So it's a little bit longer than it is tall. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we've got this right where we want it. Now we need to check because I shrank it. It's also going to shrink the height. So these are things we have to go back and change. So I've clicked on the pink chicken. I'm going to click this and set this back to 4, which is originally what we wanted. And we're going to click the base or the gray, click the center notch, and say, well, we want this at 2. Now we've designed our stamp. Now we can come up here and save this as, chicken underscore 01. Yeah, that's fine. Chicken 01. That works fine. So I'm going to export this as an STL. Now you can do it as an object or an STL. STL is going to be better for 3D printing. Most of your slicer software works with STL. Some of them will work with objects, but play safe. Go with the STL. Okay. Now we've got that saved. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Let's talk about the other image. I'm going to go to chicken 02 base, import, choose a file. Oh no. Okay, well none of that's really going to matter. Chicken 02 line, import. Now, because I wasn't paying attention, the lines are not were actually cut out, which I can Control Z and you can see that they're cut out. That's because of the way I saved. I didn't have everything highlighted the same, so it doesn't really matter. But no, why did I do that? We gotta re-import these. We're gonna base import and line import. Now we are good to go. We can change this. Actually, I'm just gonna change this one to 5 because these have to get changed anyway. We know that this has to be, I believe, 51 on the side. So we scroll right down to ooh, that was a good 51. Slide this over to the middle. Now we're going to adjust our total heights. So the outline we wanted at 4. So right here, 4. I got it now. Okay. Base is at 2. Now, talking about why I pick these dimensions. When you talk about the base of a stamp, 2 is actually kind of thin. 3 is very safe. 2 depending on how big it is, depending on a lot of variables, could be too thin. So if you always want to play it safe, you can just set it to 3. I know for something this size, 2 is going to be more than, well, it's not going to be more than enough. It's going to be enough. And I don't want to waste uh, time on the printer, and I don't want to waste filament. So that's the judgment call. And then with the lines as far as how tall you want them, once again, based on total application, I know that 2 millimeters is plenty deep enough to give your stamps a very rich, deep outline. And you don't have to go any deeper than 2 millimeters. 1 millimeter, it doesn't feel right. 3 millimeters, depending on, let's say if you're using like a logo to stamp your name, your business logo on the bottom of the cup, 3 can push it just a little too close structurally on the bottom of that cup for me to be happy with it. So that's the judgment call. 2 millimeters on a stamp, as far as the total height, and the base anywhere from 2 to 3, 3 being very safe. And then obviously this is going to be exported. I changed the name up here. This was our O2, so I could export as an STL. Now let's go to the folder. So we know if I open this up in 3D Viewer, which anything on Windows 10 or above is going to have. So you'll notice this is what it looks like. This is a 3D image. Right? Very, very simple. It's always good to double check your work. Look at it before you walk away from the computer. And then we can look at the other image too, but I think that might be a little bit overkill. So I'm going to clear my board. Now this is Cura. This program is designed for your 3D printers. If you don't use Cura, I'm sure whatever slicer software is going to be the exact same for the most part. Cura is the most popular, and I could go and talk about the different settings and everything, but I'm assuming you have everything dialed in as far as the printer working, and your prints are coming out reliable. So actually, I'm going to, let me see, my stamps, downloads. We're going to move this here. Okay. Just lets me know where everything's kept. And I'm now going to open. I'm going to open this. I'm going to go to where I saved it, so it's in my stamps. And I'm going to go to Chicken 1. Now, the nice thing is because I decided I want this to be 2 inches wide, if I click on this and I go to size, you'll notice that my Y is at 50 and my X is at 41. So I know I'm at that 2-inch mark, and that my total height is 4, which we talked about the base being 2 and the walls being 4. So that is perfect. Okay, so let's talk about the direction of your chicken, right? This is fine. But if I delete this and pull in the other chicken, Chicken 02, this isn't fun. Oh, actually, I do not have this guy set up to the correct dimensions I want. So we're going to address the fact that there's letters that say hi first before we fix the stamp. So as of right now, I need to mirror image this. So I have mirror imaging on the side. If I click M, it would allow me to mirror image. I pick what direction I need to mirror image it in, and that's it. That's all I had to do. That is done. Hi will come out perfectly fine. Now, talking about size, I need this to be correct. So I'm going to set this to 50, and, ooh, actually, I want uniform scaling. So I set this to 50. Why is this? There we go. All right, so I scaled it down so that it is the correct size. Now you could be really picky and say, well, um, the base has given it a little bit of extra thickness and all that kind of stuff, which is true. And you could obviously take your time and do the math and figure out what's important. So I'm going to uncheck scaling, select that back to 4, because once again, I want the walls to be 4 and the base to be at 2. So that would refix everything. And then I could slice this software. And this looks like it's going to take me about an hour to print. And then if I inserted my my SD card into my computer, it would say save to removable. And then that's what you'd click before you take it over to the printer and insert your SD card and go ahead and print this. I'm not going to go over those steps. This is just from kind of concept drawing to 3D print ready. Hopefully this has been helpful. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I do offer services where, let's say you have a business logo, or you have an image that you want converted into a 3D printable file. I do those, but those are things to consider. Hopefully this has been easy to follow, and if you guys are looking for any in-depth looks at what's important or what you would do or have any questions, just let me know and I'll be more than willing to make another video.